Alright, let's dive into something that's both fascinating and incredibly important, the quest for safer opioids. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, oh great, another video about drugs, hear me out. This isn't just about opioids, it's about how science is rewriting the rules of pain management. And personally, I think this could be a game changer for millions of people who rely on these drugs, but are trapped in the shadow of addiction. Here's the hook. What if we could keep the pain-relieving power of opioids without the addictive side effects? Sounds like a pipe dream, right? Well, researchers at Duke University are saying it might not be. In a recent study published in Nature, they've uncovered something that's both surprising and deeply insightful. It's not just about the opioids themselves, but about how our brains react to them. And what makes this really interesting is that it challenges everything we thought we knew about addiction. So, let's break it down. Opioids work by binding to receptors in the spinal cord and nervous system, essentially turning down the volume on pain signals. But here's the kicker, they also mess with your brain's chemistry, particularly dopamine, which is often called the reward chemical. That's why opioids can make you feel like you don't care about the pain. Like Mike Tedros, the study's lead author, puts it, it's like twisting your ankle while running from a bear and just not caring. But that same mechanism is what leads to addiction, because your brain starts associating the drug with a reward. Now, here's where it gets really intriguing. The Duke team found that a tiny group of brain cells, ones that release a chemical called acetylcholine, plays a critical role in this reward learning process. What many people don't realize is that not all neurons in the brain speak the same language. Some use dopamine, others acetylcholine. And for years, scientists kind of overlooked these acetylcholine-releasing neurons when it came to addiction. Earlier studies suggested they weren't important, but Tedros and his team took a different approach. They used a tool called DART to temporarily block opioid receptors in these specific neurons, and the results were jaw-dropping. In mice, they found that blocking morphine's effects in these neurons prevented the drug from becoming associated with a reward. But, and this is huge, the pain relief was still there. From my perspective, this is a massive deal. It suggests that we might be able to separate the good parts of opioids from the bad. If you take a step back and think about it, this could mean safer pain management for people who really need it, without the risk of addiction. What this really suggests is that dopamine isn't the whole story. Yes, it surges when you take opioids, but it's the drop in acetylcholine that seems to be the key to reward learning. A detail I find fascinating is that earlier studies might have missed this because they permanently removed opioid receptors, and the brain compensated over time. Tedros's team essentially repeated the experiment but with better tools, and the results were completely different. Now, I know what you're thinking. This was done in mice, so how does it apply to humans? Well, the brain region they studied, the nucleus accumbens, is ancient in evolutionary terms, meaning it's pretty similar in mice and humans. So while more research is needed, there's a real possibility that this mechanism could work in people too. This raises a deeper question. Could we develop a medication that targets these specific neurons, making opioids safer? In my opinion, this study is a perfect example of how science can challenge our assumptions and open up new possibilities. It's not just about opioids, it's about understanding the brain's language and how we can manipulate it to improve lives. Personally, I'm excited to see where this goes, but I'm also cautious. The road from lab to pharmacy is long, and there are ethical questions to consider. But if this works, it could change everything. So here's my closing thought. What if the key to safer opioids isn't in the drugs themselves, but in how we tweak the brain's response to them? It's a bold idea, but one that's starting to look possible. What do you think? Is this the breakthrough we've been waiting for, or just another step in a long journey? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear your thoughts.